So Keir Starmer has told representatives from over 40 countries that people smuggling should be treated like terrorism. He was hosting the first organised immigration crime summit here in London. It brought together the US, China and other countries like Vietnam and Iraq, where many migrants travel from. Here's our home editor, Mark Easton.
The arrest of a prominent people smuggler by Britain's National Crime Agency in Preston.
You were involved in coordinating and facilitating the movement of a significant number of migrants across Europe and into the United Kingdom.
These are images the government has issued to coincide with a two-day international summit in London to tackle what it calls the global threat of illegal migration. Amanzada was jailed for 17 years in November for smuggling Kurdish migrants across the Channel in small boats. But the Prime Minister has repeatedly stressed that in his view only international cooperation can combat the threat from organised immigration crime. Welcoming delegations from more than 40 states at Lancaster House in London this morning, Sir Keir Starmer said for too long the UK had been a soft touch for illegal migration.
The people we serve want this issue sorted. But the truth is, we can only smash these gangs once and for all if we work together.
So this event here at Lancaster House is really the physical embodiment of the Prime Minister's approach to organised immigration crime. International cooperation right along the smuggling routes. But while this is a global issue requiring a global response, the Prime Minister is also well aware of the domestic political pressures when you've got small boats still arriving in record numbers. This year's already seen more than 5,000 migrants crossing the Channel in small boats, and opposition parties are accusing the government of having lost its grip on the problem.
I think the Prime Minister's credibility on this issue is in complete tatters. He promised to smash the gangs. He has completely failed to do that.
In a post on social media this morning, the PM said, "Illegal migration risks our security. I get it. You're angry. So am I. That's why I'm rolling up my sleeves to fix it." Rolling up his sleeves in Downing Street terms means greater cooperation with the French to stop dinghies in the Channel. It was revealed today that smuggling gangs are using their own drones to avoid police. More money for border security, more UK prosecutors to process those arrested, and, critically, more international deals at every stage of the smuggling route, from source countries to the beaches of Kent. Mark Easton, BBC News at Lancaster House in London.
Well, Mark has now joined me here in the studio. Let's talk more about this summit, this gathering, in terms of what we're expecting, in terms of actual new policy. Just take me through the sorts of things the governments are talking about.
Well, I think the first thing to say is that almost every representative there is facing a very similar kind of situation to the Prime Minister here in the UK. The problems of organised immigration crime, as they now call it, are significant right along the supply chain, from the source countries through the transit regions and countries, and through, of course, to the reception countries like Britain and the coast of Kent. So there is a determination, I think, across the board to look at ways of trying to get support, and countries like the UK will be prepared to put money in to support countries in poorer areas to try and relieve some of the burdens. I mean, this is an issue that the Prime Minister is convinced can only be dealt with through international cooperation. We have seen recently deals signed in Iraq and in Albania. I think what we're going to see from this summit is more deals a bit like that. I think there may be some movement, for instance, on a deal with Vietnam, which has been a source country that has been of some concern.
And we've seen the Prime Minister tweeting about it, posting, saying, "I understand, I'm as angry as you," in terms of his conversation with the voters. He was talking there about treating it as the same as terrorism, people smuggling gangs. That has been the mantra from this new government, smashing the people smuggling gangs. Has that worked?
Well, not on the basis of what we've seen so far this year in terms of small boats. If that's your measure, then the opposition parties make the perfectly reasonable point that since January we've seen a higher number of people crossing the Channel than in any previous year. So that is not a problem that has been solved. And you're right, there are distinct ideas as to what will work to slow and eventually stop these boats. The Conservatives, of course, believed that what you require is a really strong deterrent, and in their case that was the Rwanda plan. The current government regards that as a gimmick. But there is a question, I think, about the level of deterrent that the current government is employing. They say that tougher controls on illegal migrants working in the UK, tougher action against the people smugglers themselves, right up the supply chain. That will be a deterrent in itself. The jury is still out, I think.
You talk about the chain, and you're absolutely right, and it goes all the way back to Vietnam and all those other places where people come from. I was talking in the last hour to the former Chief Immigration Officer at the UK's Border Force. He made the point that the deterrence isn't there, and reflected on the Rwanda scheme. You touched on that, but also said that the French should be doing more. In terms of that relationship, the UK-French relationship, where are we on that, and any changes to how they operate in terms of those boats setting off from those beaches?
Well, the Prime Minister, in his speech at the summit today, did reflect a little bit on what he regards as a much improved relationship with the French. He made the point that until recently, the French would not go into the water, so that once a small dinghy had actually left the shore, they regarded that as something that they could no longer intervene with. The Prime Minister believes that he has now moved on to a state where they can discuss and implement activity in the shallows, in the channel, and actually stop these boats coming across.